Here's your host, Alex Garrett.
So if you're listening to this on Spotify, now you can comment. That's right. You can comment on any podcast that I posted on the Alex Garrett Podcast Network. One Leg Up feature, One Leg Up with sports, One Leg Up on adapting. So it's free game for you. If you're happy with what we talk about, if you're pissed off about what we talk about, if you think I'm a bit nasally or whatever, I don't know, squeaky as some might say, put that comment there as well. But I'd like to think this podcast serves a purpose and is not just a blowhard talking into a microphone, but real topics, real conversation that you might benefit from when listening to this. So comment your thoughts on the different podcasts that I've been posting on Spotify. And thanks to Spreaker for allowing me to syndicate on Spotify, by the way. Now, I want to pick apart the letter from President Biden to his fellow Democrats that are calling for him to be stepping out of the race. Fellow Democrats, now that you have returned from the July the 4th recess, I want you to know that despite all the speculation in the press and elsewhere, I'm firmly committed to staying in this race to run this race to the end and to beating Donald Trump. This is Biden's letter to the Democrats. Here's where I think the best part of this letter is. I know better than anyone the responsibility and the burden the nominee of our party carries. I carried it in 2020 when the fate of our nation was at stake. I also know these concerns come from a place of real respect for my lifetime of public service and your record as president. Let me pick apart that. Your record as president. You mean the fact that Russia took advantage of your weakness to go into Ukraine and we don't know where the billions that we've sent Ukraine is? Is that what you're proud of on your record? You mean the fact that you told Israel behind closed doors, knock it off, and you did not send weaponry to support Israel at the time when they needed it most against Hamas? That record? The record of weakness that everybody got a wind of when you botched the Afghanistan withdrawal and cost the lives of 13 U.S. soldiers. Is that the record? And I've said this on radio and elsewhere. I've said this, that we can be proud that he has overcome 2 aneurysms and still been in public office for 50 years. But the obliviousness of this letter to his fellow Democrats, and then the fact that they are now saying he's been visited by, a neurological doctor 3 times. 3 times is alarming. I want to know if he has to be seen by doctors, why he keeps being cleared. That's what I really want to know. Why he keeps being cleared to be president, I should say. So I'll post the letter, I guess. I mean, it's I've been moved by the expressions of affection from so many who have known me well and supported me over the course of my public life. Grateful for the rock-solid, steadfast support from so many elected Democrats in Congress and all across the country, and taking great strength from the results I've seen from so many voters, resolve and determination, and grassroots supporters. I respond to all this by saying clearly and unequivocally, I wouldn't be running again if I did not absolutely be. I would be the best person to beat Donald Trump. I mean, here's the fact of life. In a way, him not caving is incredible, but at the same time, because he's not letting outsiders, letting outside voices dictate what he wants to do. But at the same time, it's very dangerous that he wants to keep going. And I can applaud him for surviving 2 aneurysms, but he has to know, and the White House has to know, and Joe Biden has to know, this isn't right if he has a neurological conditions, which he does. It's not right to keep him in the office with all these neurological situations continuing. I mean, they've even thrown the word in Parkinson's. How freaking messed up is that? And you might say George Stephanopoulos calling for the president to step down is big news, but he's now a chorus of voices, and it seems like no matter the outlet like the Times or Morning Joe or anything like that, the president's not going to listen. So good luck, America, as this guy wants to keep on keeping on. And while we can applaud him for his fortitude, we can also really, really look at this as it's dangerous for the President of the United States to be visited by neurophysicists, or whatever you want to say, in the neurologic department, and still serve for the country. That's a little alarming to me, and I don't know if that is for you or not, but it is for me. That being said, there is a big issue that he has not conquered at all, which is the immigration. And I learned tonight, and over my constant reading of emails, that the New York Post has an interesting reporting. According to Rich Calder and Georgia Worrell, New York City's poorest zip codes forced to bear brunt of the immigration crisis. Now, I had figured when I saw that the Black Lives Matter movement was moving into the suburbs away from the city and expanding, and that was the riotous version of the Black Lives Matter movement, not the calm protesters that were there in the afternoons, and then at night the rioters took over. Anyway, I figured, of course, the immigration crisis would hit our neighborhoods, our suburbs, our kids' lives. And now we realize that according to this article, the poor zip codes of our city are being forced to bear the greatest brunt. Long Island City is home to a staggering 23 government-run shelters, 12% of the 193 operating in New York City. This was according to data of a confidential list of shelter sites used by city agencies. So while Staten Island got a lot of coverage for their fighting back, Queens quietly became the epicenter. We thought the Roosevelt Hotel, we thought all the conversions of hotels to migrant shelters, but no, that was just a piece of it. They actually made 23 government-run migrant shelters in Long Island City. So good on Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz for holding the man who raped a 13-year-old girl and abused the boy that was with her, too. Good for holding him accountable and for there being, no bail set, meaning nothing could get him out. Good for the DA Katz to make sure that happened. Because hell, if the city's not going to help, and I've loved the fact that Eric Adams has called out President Biden on this. I've loved that he's called for federal support for the city. But even he can't contain this crisis. And if the city can't, then yes, it's up to the district attorneys of each of these boroughs to take control. And I'm reporting this because we got to hold not only the Biden administration accountable for this, I think we hold Greg Abbott accountable for forcing our hand with all of this. And then we got to call out the city for not properly managing the migrant crisis and just dumping them in the poor zip codes of our city. Three of the top 5 most shelter-saturated zip codes are among the poorest areas, which means the incomes are below $37,300. So, and that's according to Data Commons. This is as of June 26th. The Post went into this deep dive, and I'm glad they did, because we've got to hold the city accountable for this mess too. We've got to hold them accountable. Yes, Biden and then Abbott. But we could have easily done what Martha's Vineyard did and said, bye-bye. On to the next city. Move them up to Canada, for God's sakes. But no, we feel like we have a responsibility to be the open arms for everybody, even if they are single, military-age men that don't look like they need a handout. They look like they're just ready to frickin' cause havoc. Not every one of them, but there are, I'm sure, a lot. Like that rapist in Queens. So I feel like this is a Watergate kind of moment with this reporting, because as a New York Post exclusive, Rich Calder and Georgia Orwell reporting on this. $37,000 income neighborhoods bearing the brunt of this crisis. We could have easily put them back on the buses and said, we're not able to help you right now. And that would have been a really smart decision, wouldn't it have? Let's see what else the sleuth reporting of these two and many others come up with, as the city, while it has not seen an incredible jump, and amazingly, my zip code is 11432. That's where my household home is, and they have literally put migrants in the 11435 and the 434. 13 shelters in the 11435, 7 in the 11434. I pray for that beautiful suburb of Queens in Jamaica, Briarwood. I pray for the safety of all of us there. This isn't normal. And instead of trying to pack all these migrants in to different areas, we must look for an exit strategy. A humane but much needed exit strategy. Not only out of the poorest neighborhoods, out of our city entirely. For the good of even them and the good of our city. See, by giving freebies to illegal immigrants while someone who's disabled on Social Security can't make extra money, that doesn't feel empowering to either party, does it? Not in my eyes. And we're talking about non-empowering American disability, those Americans with disabilities in the ADA month. I know I keep going back to that, but it's so striking to me how this month alone, politicians will roll out the red carpet for those disabilities. And then, reminder, you can't make more than a certain amount if you're on Social Security and a person with disabilities. That's not the American dream. So why are we giving it to those who didn't even look like they knew where they were when they were dropped off here from across the border? Sounds harsh, I know, but it feels like a real sentiment here. There's got to be a humane way than dumping these immigrants into these neighborhoods and basically washing their hands and saying, all right, you guys take care of them. There's got to be a better way for both parties involved and the 8 million New Yorkers involved. What say you on the Alex Garrett Podcast Network?